She'd made it halfway through my laser grid, her silhouette shimmering with olive oil, dragging a yoga mat behind her like she was skiing in the garage. The prototype targeting system beeped once, its red light flashing to signal it had just woken up. I sat in the living room, eyes glued to the internal monitor, stunned as I watched Marjorie Platt, president of the Coral Ridge HOA, a one-woman army obsessed with micromanaging the entire neighborhood, crawl past a crate labeled, "Don't touch unless you're tired of breathing." She muttered something about unauthorized storage and property inspection, completely unaware that one more inch would get her snared by a non-lethal elastic net designed to trap border smugglers, wrapping her tight like a spring roll. Right then, it hit me. This woman had no idea she'd just broken into the most secure garage in 3 counties, and it was about to introduce itself. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the latest video. I leaned back in my chair, the tablet screen glowing in the dark, as the system tagged her, Intruder, HOA threat level. That label was a joke I'd coded into the AI after a few run-ins with Marjorie's clipboard. My garage wasn't your average auto shop. Picture a modern bunker, thick titanium door, biometric scanners that could ID a fly, and enough sensors to make Fort Knox jealous. I built it to tinker in peace, a place to keep my hands busy after years crafting tactical gear for folks the government pretends don't exist. But Marjorie? She saw the blackout curtains and heard the hum of the battery stabilizer, so she decided I was hiding some grand conspiracy. Maybe an unregistered lawnmower. With her, who could tell? She was a few steps from trouble, her headlamp swaying like a broken lantern. The yoga mat snagged on a metal pipe. She yanked hard, toppling a stack of powered-down prototype casings. They clattered onto the epoxy floor, and I winced not because they were dangerous, but because I'd spent hours stacking them neatly. The alert system jumped to orange, a countdown timer popping up, 90 seconds until the net deployed. I could have let it happen. Picturing Marjorie trussed up like an overstuffed burrito was honestly tempting. But I'm not that guy. I punched in the override code, disabling the system just as she reached for a crate marked Classified, Not Your Business. Her fingers hesitated, then pulled back. Even Marjorie's curiosity had limits. "Who builds a garage like this?" she whispered, her voice echoing off the steel walls. I nearly laughed out loud. Meet Marjorie. The guy who spent a decade making toys that crack bunkers in under 2 minutes. The guy who moved to Coral Ridge to sip coffee on the porch, fix motorcycles, and steer clear of people like you. Coral Ridge was supposed to be my hideout, a quiet Florida suburb with pastel houses, swaying palms, and neighbors busy grilling shrimp or flying kites at Seaside Park. I picked a dead end on Palm Breeze, surrounded by retirees and young families. It seemed perfect. Calm. Anonymous. Until Marjorie showed up on day 1 with her clipboard and a smile stiff as a safe. She measured my mailbox, actually measured it, while I unloaded boxes from the moving truck. Ensuring compliance, she said, eyeing my double garage door like it was hiding state secrets. "What's in there?" she asked. "Tools," I replied, not quite lying, just skipping some details. She squinted at the steel door with its fingerprint scanner, then scribbled something. That was my first clue I'd landed on the wrong radar. Now, glistening with olive oil, she was about to learn why curiosity and high-tech security don't mix. I grabbed my jeans, slipped through the side door, and stepped into the garage. The air was cool, humming with the familiar buzz of dormant gear. Marjorie froze behind the workbench, her flashlight beam sweeping over a row of tactical tools, ballistic plating, smart wrenches, a helmet that could skin faces in a sandstorm. Her eyes went wide. "I knew it," she shrieked, pointing like she'd cracked a major case. "I knew you were making bombs." I crossed my arms, cool as ever. "Ma'am, that's a smart wrench. It tightens bolts, doesn't detonate. Chill out." She opened her mouth to argue, but a hiss from the drone in the corner, its red light flaring, made her flinch. I got a reaction. Hard not to be suspicious when you stumble into a garage that looks like a Spec Ops lair. After over a decade designing tactical gear, stuff the Pentagon swears doesn't exist, I was burned out from racing deadlines, from sleepless nights perfecting a sensor that could save lives or a net that could snag enemies before they drew a gun. I loved that work once. Out in some far-off desert, I tested a drone no bigger than a plate, and it spotted a mine before my team walked over it. That feeling, knowing you made something that saved people, was why I started. But there were dark days too, missions where my gear was misused, and I started wondering if I was helping or hurting. So I quit, packed up, found a place where nobody knew me, and Coral Ridge popped up like a postcard. Pastel houses, swaying palms, neighbors grilling shrimp, and flying kites at Seaside Park. I bought a small house on Palm Breeze, just big enough, with a garage wide enough for my dreams and secrets. The garage was where I rebuilt myself. I installed a titanium door, blackout curtains, and a security system even the CIA would nod at. Not because I feared thieves in Coral Ridge, the biggest risk was kids tossing balls into your yard, but because I needed a space to tinker without interruption. I worked freelance, taking small contracts from old contacts, but mostly I fixed bikes, built tech toys to keep my mind sharp. I thought I'd blend in, be the friendly guy waving from the porch. But Marjorie Platt had other plans. She showed up that first day while I was unloading boxes from the truck. Clipboard in hand, smile stiff as plastic, she measured my mailbox's height, actually measured it, with a tape measure, then announced she was checking compliance. I said I'd follow any rule that didn't break the Constitution. She didn't laugh, just glanced at my garage, double steel door with a fingerprint pad, and narrowed her eyes like it had challenged her authority. "What's in there?" she asked, voice sharp as a blade. "Tools," I answered, short and sweet, not wanting trouble. But her look said it all. She didn't buy it, and I was now her target. In that first week, she filed 3 complaints. One for strange noises from the garage, really just the battery stabilizer running diagnostics. 2 for my trash cans looking too sturdy, like my garbage needed armor. 3 for intimidating landscaping. I used gravel instead of grass, and to Marjorie, that was a crime. I tried to keep the peace, waving when I saw her pass, muttering about regulations. But I knew for someone like Marjorie, curiosity wasn't a hobby, it was a full-time job. I glanced back at the monitor, checking the security logs. The system had tracked Marjorie's every move, heat signature stark against the concrete, voice-recorded muttering, heart rate spiking right when she spotted the tactical tools neatly lined up behind the workbench. I saved the footage. Not to snitch, at least not yet, but because I knew she wouldn't stop. To Marjorie, this wasn't just snooping. She thought she was uncovering some dark secret, not realizing she'd tried to infiltrate the life of someone who designed lockdown systems that could seal a facility in under 2 minutes. I stood, locked the garage again, and peered out the window where streetlights cast shadows on the palms. I'd left my old life for peace, but peace wasn't in Marjorie's dictionary. Just days after the break-in, she launched her own counterattack. 3 complaints sent straight to the HOA, each more absurd than the last. The first was about strange noises from my garage. I checked the system right away, nothing but the battery stabilizer running routine diagnostics, quieter than the neighbor's ceiling fan. But to Marjorie, that hum must have sounded like I was assembling a doomsday device. The second? My trash cans. She said they looked too sturdy. I nearly laughed. They were standard plastic bins from the store, just painted gray instead of green. Maybe to Marjorie, gray meant they held warheads. The final complaint floored me. She called my gravel front yard intimidating landscaping. No flowers, no grass, just gravel, but somehow to her, I declared war with urban aesthetics. I tried keeping things civil. Every morning, when I saw her pass, clipboard clutched like a gun, I waved, flashing a smile I hoped was friendly enough to bore her into leaving me alone. No dice. Marjorie wasn't the type to get bored. She started hanging around my place more, pretending to pick up leaves or check the curb. Sun Brew was my spot to soak in Coral Ridge's vibe. Tucked at the corner of Palm Breeze, it smelled of coffee and toast, with locals swapping stories about weather or football. I sat there, sipping cold brew, catching whispers about Marjorie. They called her the regulation queen, the one who fined a family for hanging the wrong-colored Christmas lights. I didn't chime in, just nodded, but wondered how far she'd go. My garage was a licensed lab, city-approved, but I knew permits meant nothing to Marjorie once she smelled a secret. I headed home, checked the garage again. Everything was tight. Titanium door locked, lasers humming, drone in the corner purring like it was dreaming. But I had a gut feeling trouble was brewing. Marjorie wasn't a quitter. She wasn't just curious, she was obsessed, and I was the puzzle she'd die to solve. I'd faced bigger threats, missions where one glitch could wipe out a team. Compared to that, Marjorie was a sea breeze. But Florida breezes can whip into hurricanes if you're not ready. Marjorie didn't back off after her silly complaints about noise, trash cans, or my gravel yard. If anything, failing to catch me that night in the garage only made her grip her clipboard tighter, her eyes glinting like I was the last Sudoku puzzle on Earth. All I wanted was for Coral Ridge to be a place where I could sit on my porch, sip coffee, and tinker in my garage without anyone prying. But Marjorie had a knack for turning a peaceful suburb into a battlefield, and my garage, with its titanium door and blackout curtains, was her prime target. The tension peaked when the Coral Ridge HOA suddenly issued a new rule, sent via email with the subject, ensuring community safety. The gist? Every home had to open their garage for periodic inspections, checking for inappropriate items like gas cans, old tires, or, I'm guessing, doomsday machines. The rule was clearly aimed at me. Nobody in the neighborhood kept gas cans in their garage, and the only old tire I'd seen was a dog's chew toy next door. I read the email on my tablet, sitting in the garage amid the drone's charging hum, and smirked. Marjorie thought she could force open my fortress with a printed memo? She had no idea who she was dealing with. I showed up at the HOA meeting at the Coral Clubhouse, a small building with plastic chairs, burnt coffee smell, and a bulletin board plastered with handwritten rules. When I walked in, Marjorie stood at the front, clipboard in hand like a samurai sword. Neighbors sat scattered, some yawning, others whispering about tonight's game. Marjorie launched in, voice like she was declaring war. We must protect Coral Ridge from hidden dangers. She glanced at me, stressing dangers. I crossed my arms, smiled. You mean hunting for secret robots? I asked, loud enough for chuckles. Marjorie flushed, but kept going. She pitched the garage inspection rule, calling it safety. I stood, calm as ever. My garage is a lab, city licensed. Nobody gets in without a court order. A guy next to me clapped, probably sick of Marjorie's voice. She locked eyes with me, her stare like it could drill through my titanium door. After the meeting, I knew Marjorie wouldn't quit. She started circling my house more, with increasingly creative excuses. One day, I saw her by the gate, pretending to pick leaves, but her phone was aimed at my garage. Another time, she tossed a tennis ball into my yard, deliberately, no doubt, then knocked, asking to grab it. My grandkid's ball, she said, smile stiff as plastic. I fetched it, tossed it over the fence, and said, no need to thank me. She glared, but I saw her hand shake as she gripped her clipboard. Marjorie was losing patience, and impatient people make mistakes. Proof came soon after. One night, my security system beeped, not a full alarm, just a motion alert. I checked the screen and saw a tiny drone, cheap toy model, buzzing near the garage. It smacked a palm tree, crashing like a drunk mosquito. I picked it up, checked it out. Blurry camera, weak battery, and a little sticker saying Coral Ridge HOA property. Marjorie didn't even hide her tracks. I pulled the battery, taped a note saying, upgrade your gear, Marjorie, and dropped it in her mailbox. Thought she'd back off. Nope. The next day, I caught her at the corner of Palm Breeze, eyes glued to my house, scribbling like she was writing a spy novel. The titanium door stayed sealed, lasers ran smooth, and my drone, the real one, not a toy, yawned in the corner. I'd faced worse than Marjorie. Missions where one slip could erase a team. She was just a sea breeze, but I knew Florida breezes could spiral into storms. Looking back at Marjorie crawling through my laser grid, I still can't fathom how she was that bold. After all her petty complaints, HOA rules, and that toy drone crashing like a drunk mosquito, I figured she was just overly nosy. Wrong. She was a Florida hurricane, and that night, she barreled into my fortress with a bottle of olive oil, a yoga mat, and the confidence of someone who thought they were untouchable. Sitting in the garage now, amid the drone's hum and the screen's cold glow, I replay the security footage, reliving every second of the night Marjorie learned my tech and her curiosity would never get along. It started at midnight, when the security system gave a soft beep, not a red alert, just a heads up someone was moving outside. I flicked on the tablet, saw Marjorie at the yard's edge, dressed in black, headlamp on, clutching olive oil like she was prepping the world's most dangerous salad. She dragged a crumpled yoga mat, clearly planning to slide past the laser sensors. I nearly laughed, but then she found a small gap in the door, a design flaw I hadn't fixed, and slithered in like a bargain bin spy movie star. The system tagged her instantly, labeling her intruder, HOA threat level, with a tiny clipboard icon I'd coded for laughs. But I wasn't laughing then. She was inside my fortress. My garage isn't your typical workshop. Titanium door, biometric scanners, thermal sensors. It's more bunker than storage. I built it to tinker after years crafting tactical gear. Nets that snatch enemies in a blink, drones smaller than plates that scan entire battlefields. Marjorie didn't know that. She just saw blackout curtains and heard a hum. So she decided I was hiding something big. She crawled through the laser grid, olive oil glinting on her clothes, dragging the mat to dodge sensors. The system tracked every move, red lights blinking like a predator's eyes. She muttered, "Unauthorized storage. I'll find it," nearly brushing a crate labeled, "Don't touch unless you're tired of breathing." I sat in the living room, tablet in hand, heart beating faster than usual. Not fear. I'd faced worse dangers, but knowing if the net deployed, Marjorie would end up a giant spring roll. She got halfway when the mat caught on a metal pipe. She yanked, toppling a stack of prototype casings, which clattered on the epoxy floor like a warning gong. The system flashed orange, a timer counting down. 90 seconds until the elastic net launched, strong enough to hold a smuggler without breaking bones. I could have let it go, imagining Marjorie wrapped tight, yelling about HOA rules while trapped was tempting. But I tapped the override, shutting it down as she reached for a crate marked classified, "Not your business." She paused, fingers hovering, like she sensed trouble. "Who builds a garage like this?" she whispered, voice bouncing off the walls. I flipped on the garage lights, stepping in from the side door. The air was cool, metallic. Marjorie froze behind the workbench, her flashlight hitting a row of tactical gear. Ultralight armor, smart wrenches, a helmet that scans faces in sandstorms. Her eyes bulged. "I knew it," she yelled, pointing like she'd solved a crime. "I knew you were making bombs." I crossed my arms, deadpan. "Ma'am, that's a smart wrench. It tightens bolts. Chill out." She opened her mouth, but my drone in the corner hissed, red light flaring. Not sure if it was the drone or my stare, but she bolted, slipping on her own oil, knocking over a self-lighting helmet. It switched on, scanned her, and droned. "Unidentified threat." I nearly lost it. Marjorie fled the garage, leaving behind her yoga mat and a small notebook dropped on the concrete. I picked it up, flipped through, and saw her slanted handwriting. "Elliot. Minimal social interaction. Garage unusually quiet. Possibly weapons." I sighed, shook my head, and locked the notebook in the safe, not out of fear, but because I knew she wasn't done meddling. Every move she made was caught by my security system. Heat signature, heart rate, even her yelp when the laser nearly snagged her like a fish in a net. I secured the garage, stepped into the living room, and paused by the window. Outside, Palm Breeze was calm as ever. Palms swayed, streetlights glinted off the gravel I'd laid myself. Instead of backing off after her failed break-in, she doubled down. "I came here hoping to live quietly." But to Marjorie, silence was suspicious, and a locked door was a declaration of war. Somehow, in her eyes, I'd become the neighborhood's biggest threat, a shadowy figure with an armored garage and a past no one knew. And I knew from that moment, life on Palm Breeze would never be simple again. The drama exploded when cops knocked on my door days after the break-in. 2 officers stood on my porch, one young with a notepad, the other older, chewing gum. They said Marjorie reported civil disturbance tied to my garage. I invited them in, poured coffee, and fired up the tablet to show the security footage from that night. Marjorie crawling through the laser grid, olive oil shimmering, yoga mat dragging like a snake's tail, played crystal clear. When she slipped on the oil and screamed about bombs, the young cop snorted, spilling coffee on his notes. The older one shook his head, saying, "This plat ladies, something else." They asked if I wanted to press charges for trespassing. I passed. I didn't want drama, just for her to leave me alone. They nodded, asked to keep the video for internal training, and left with barely hidden grins. I thought it was over. Wrong again. Marjorie didn't stop. One morning, I found a box on my doorstep, loosely taped, holding an old paintball gun, some toy pellets, and a shoddily printed packet titled Weapons Blueprint. I checked the security system immediately. Footage showed Marjorie, in an HOA logo hoodie, sneaking the box over at 3 a.m., tripping on my trash can and muttering about evidence. I laughed out loud. She thought this would rattle me? I snapped photos, saved the video, and called the cops back. This time, the young cop brought a different partner. Both watched the footage and cracked up on the spot. "Platt needs better spy movies," the new guy said. They took the box, called it nonsense, and told me to stay cool. I nodded, but I knew Marjorie was desperate, and desperation's dangerous. She wasn't done there. Marjorie started handing out flyers around Coral Ridge, printed on bright yellow paper, scrawled with accusations that I kept dangerous equipment in my garage. One flyer blew into my yard, reading, "Residents beware, Palm Breeze garage suspicious." I picked it up, noticing they'd misspelled suspicious as suspicious. Neighbors didn't care. An old guy at Sunbrew folded one into a paper plane for his grandkid. But I saw Marjorie was trying to drag the whole neighborhood into her fight. She wanted to make me public enemy number one. I checked the garage again, making sure everything was locked down as usual. Titanium doors sealed, lasers running smooth, drone in the corner yawning like it was bored with the chaos. Then a small detail stopped me. The security system logged a hacking attempt, feeble, clumsy, the kind you pick up from online tutorials. I didn't need to guess long. Marjorie was behind it, probably paying some local tech kid to crack my codes. I smirked, beefed up the firewall, and slipped in a fake message for the intruder. "Go to bed. It's late." I don't know if she saw it, but I like picturing her squinting through reading glasses, fuming as the words popped up. And as if the failed hack only made her angrier, she struck again by calling an emergency HOA meeting at the Coral Clubhouse, blasting out an email screaming, "Neighborhood security risk." I nearly choked on my coffee reading it. Risk? Maybe her running out of paper for those yellow flyers. I went, not out of fear, but curious to see her next move. The Coral Clubhouse was the same. Creaky plastic chairs, burnt coffee stink, bulletin boards stuffed with handwritten rules. When I walked in, Marjorie stood up front, clutching her clipboard like a shield. Neighbors sat sparsely, one old guy messing with his phone, a lady whispering about shrimp prices. Marjorie started, voice like she was reading a war manifesto. "We've got a threat right on Palm Breeze. That garage holds dangerous gear." She held up a stack of photos, blurry, probably from her toy drone, one even upside down. I crossed my arms, grinned. "Dangerous gear? Like a smart wrench for bolts?" A few chuckles broke out. Marjorie flushed, but plowed on. She listed her evidence, odd noises, sturdy trash cans, and get this, my lack of chattiness. "Normal people don't lock garages with steel doors," she shouted. I stood, cool as ever. "My garage is a city-licensed lab. Want to check it? Get a court order." I pulled out my tablet, showed everyone the video of Marjorie planting the toy gun box, tripping on my trash can, muttering about evidence. The room roared with laughter, except for Marjorie. One lady stood, saying, "Marjorie, take a break. Leave Elliot alone." Marjorie locked eyes with me, her glare like it could burn through my titanium door, then vowed to call the FBI. The FBI. I nearly asked if she had their hotline number. After the meeting, I knew Marjorie was out of tricks but not out of fight. I didn't want this drama dragging on forever. My garage was a fortress, but I came to Coral Ridge to live, not feud with the HOA president. I called Diego Salazar, an old buddy from my tactical gear days. Diego's now with a military civilian program, still cracking jokes like old times. I told him about Marjorie, from the olive oil to the toy gun. He cackled over the phone, then said, "Let me help. Let's do a security demo. Show the neighborhood your garage is cleaner than their pools." I agreed. If Marjorie wanted secrets, I'd give her the truth my way. I got to work, checking the garage again. Titanium door tight, lasers smooth, drone in the corner flashing red eyes like it was ready to perform. I picked demo gear, a small motion-detecting robot, a self-ID lock. Not weapons, just smart tools, but flashy enough to kill Marjorie's rumors. I was done dragging this drama through Coral Ridge, where all I wanted was to fix bikes, sip coffee, and tinker in my garage. Diego Salazar, my old tactical buddy, nailed it. The only way to end this was showing the whole neighborhood my garage wasn't an armory but a lab cleaner than their pools. So we set up a security demo at Seaside Park, and that was the day Marjorie learned she'd picked the wrong guy to mess with. Seaside Park glowed under Florida's sun, palms swaying, hot dog smells wafting everywhere. Neighbors gathered on folding chairs, kids darting around with melting ice cream, some old guy's Bluetooth speaker blaring off-key country tunes. Diego stood center stage, polo shirt crisp, grinning like a car salesman. He introduced his team, engineers from a military civilian program, and said the demo was to share civilian security tech. I stood nearby, hands in pockets, watching Marjorie lurk behind a lemonade stand, clipboard hugged like a talisman. She was clearly waiting for me to flop, but her eyes wavered when Diego pointed to my small robot. The robot, no bigger than a plate, looked like a toy but could spot motion 20 meters out and fire warning flares. Diego told me to demo it. I flipped the switch, and it glided over the grass, red LED eyes scanning the crowd. Kids cheered. Adults gasped. I told it to find a mock threat, a Can Diego set up nearby. It locked on, shot a tiny flare, and the park erupted in applause. Marjorie glared, but I saw her hand shake as she scribbled. Diego moved on, showing off a self-ID lock I'd rigged on a dummy frame. He explained, "This is civilian tech. Safe. Licensed. Elliot's garage is top tier." A lady in the crowd yelled, "I want that lock." The park cracked up. I knew Marjorie wouldn't sit still. She slunk to the back, whispering to some stranger with a phone, probably trying to spark a new rumor. I noticed, but wasn't worried. My system was ready. When Diego asked me to say a few words, I stepped up, calm. I came to Coral Ridge for peace, not to hide bombs. My garage is my workplace, city approved. Want to check it? Bring a court order. A few clapped. An old guy shouted, "Leave Elliot alone." Marjorie flushed, but then she did something I didn't expect. She launched another toy drone, hoping to crash the demo. My system caught it instantly. A big screen Diego brought lit up, showing Marjorie's drone wobbling over the park, its blurry camera catching her behind a lemonade stand, clutching the controller. The whole neighborhood turned to stare. The drone hit a palm tree, dropping like a drunk mosquito again. I picked it up, held it high, and said, "Need better gear, Marjorie." The park roared, kids pointing, and Marjorie bolted into the Coral Clubhouse, face red as boiled shrimp. Diego slapped my shoulder, muttering, "You're an artist." I shrugged, but inside, I knew this fight was done. Neighbors started seeing me differently. They came over, asked about the robot, the lock, even begged for selfies with my drone, the real one, not a toy. One lady said Marjorie once fined her for planting wrong-colored flowers, and we all laughed. Standing there, under the sun with country music, I felt Coral Ridge wasn't just a hideout anymore. It was becoming home. Diego packed up, winking, "Now Platt leave you alone. Or not, and we do another show." I grinned, looking out at Palm Breeze, where sunset glinted off palms, kids biked, and shrimp grill smells lingered. After the Seaside Park demo, when Marjorie Platt's toy drone crashed like a drunk mosquito in front of everyone and I held it up saying, "Need better gear," I thought she was out of moves. Coral Ridge laughed, neighbors cheered, and Marjorie fled to the Coral Clubhouse like a scalded shrimp. I wanted this place back to normal, where I could fix bikes, sip coffee at Sun Brew, and tinker in my garage without anyone measuring my mailbox. But Marjorie, with her clipboard and trampled pride, wasn't the type to give up easy. She had one last play, and I, with my lockdown fortress, was still the target she wanted to take down. It started when I got a summons from the local court. Marjorie was suing me for emotional distress. The reason? A message from my garage's security keypad, popping up when she tried hacking it after the demo. "Go home, Marjorie." I nearly choked on my coffee reading the complaint. She called it threatening behavior, citing psychological stress from her own drone exposing her at the park. I thought she was joking, but there she was in court, clutching a tattered file, voice trembling as she ranted about my dangerous garage. The judge, an old guy who looked like he just wanted dinner, yawned through her speech. I stood, calm, presenting evidence, my city lab permit, the video of Marjorie crawling through my lasers, and footage of her planting the toy gun box. When I showed her tripping over my trash can at 3 a.m., the courtroom snickered. The judge banged his gavel, tossed the case, and told Marjorie to stay out of other people's garages. She glared, eyes like they could torch my titanium door, then stormed out, dragging her clipboard. I thought that was it, but Marjorie wasn't done. She hired a private security firm, probably hoping they'd dig up proof in my garage. 3 guys in green polo shirts showed up, toting scanners, looking serious. I invited them in, opened the titanium door, and showed them the lab, shelves of smart wrenches, a plate-sized robot, a drone dozing in the corner. They poked around, eyes lighting up like kids in a toy store. One asked, "You sell these robots?" Another snapped a pic with the face-scanning helmet. They ended up slapping my back, saying, "This place is tighter than our HQ," and left, refusing Marjorie's job. I heard she screamed into her phone when they reported back, but I just shrugged. She wanted a fight, but she was swinging at an unbreakable fortress. I decided to hit back one last time, not out of spite, but to show her I was always a step ahead. I rigged an auto sprinkler in my front yard, dubbed Platt Mist. It sensed motion, sprayed harmless blue mist, enough to thrill Coral Ridge kids. First time it went off, Marjorie was passing, trying to snap pics of my fence, and got doused. Kids howled, racing through the spray, turning Platt Mist into a neighborhood game. Marjorie glared from afar, but I just waved, grinning easy. She stopped coming near my place. One day, I caught Marjorie sneaking onto my roof, lugging a cheap camera, likely her final stab at spying before giving up. The security system pinged instantly, and my drone shot up, red beam locking on her. She yelped, slipped, and had to clutch a palm tree to climb down, dropping the camera to smash on the ground. I gathered the pieces, dropped them in her mailbox with a note, next time, by quality. After that, I didn't see her skulking anymore. Coral Ridge started feeling calm again. Neighbors swapped Trespassed stories like a quirky legend. The kids loved the cool blue spray, and I, for the first time, felt this place was becoming a real home. The day Marjorie slipped off my roof, clinging to a palm tree to save herself, wasn't just the end of a spying attempt. It was the curtain call on the chaos she'd brought to Coral Ridge. Camera smashed, reputation cracked, and then she was gone. Word is she sold her house, moved to another community, where the HOA is run by a lawyer supposedly stricter than her. I wasn't sad, just relieved. I came to Coral Ridge to escape my past, to tinker in my garage and fix bikes in quiet. But now, this neighborhood wasn't just a temporary hideout. It was home. For real this time. I started opening the garage more, not to show off, but to share. Neighbors swung by, curious about the small robot or smart lock from the demo. I held little workshops, teaching kids to code basic sensors, no laser grids, just blinking LEDs. One girl drew a smiley face on my robot, naming it Elliot's Buddy. I laughed, feeling like I'd found something I'd lost long ago. One day, the city sent a letter asking me to join a civilian safety board, thanks to the Seaside Park demo. I haven't replied, but the idea of helping keep Coral Ridge safe has me thinking. Neighbors changed too. They stopped eyeing my garage like a secret vault. A new couple moved into Marjorie's old place, brought me cookies, asked if Trespassed was for sale. I grinned, said it was a neighborhood gift. Palm breeze stayed picture perfect. Palms swaying, sunset glinting, kids' bikes mixing with shrimp grill smells from someone's yard. I stood on my porch, sipping coffee, hearing laughter from Seaside Park. Marjorie had turned this place into a battlefield, but now it was a community. My garage is still a fortress, titanium door locked tight, drone dormant in the corner like a sleeping guard. I used to crack bunkers in under 2 minutes, built gear that froze enemies in the dark. But in Coral Ridge, I learned, winning isn't always about crushing someone, it's letting them see they're wrong. Marjorie doubted, snooped, then exposed her own absurdity, and that's what made the neighborhood back me, not with words, but with quiet support. One evening, sitting on the porch, coffee warm in my hand, I watched a kid's homemade robot scoot across my yard, trailing a starry LED glow. I smiled, raised my mug like a silent toast. Coral Ridge was once just a spot I picked to vanish from the world's noise. But now, with every calm breath, every familiar glance, I know, this isn't just where I landed. It's where I belong. The story of Elliot Vance and Marjorie Platt in Coral Ridge, Florida, mirrors very real slices of life in the United States today, especially in suburban communities where homeowners associations, HOAs, and neighborly ties can turn into stages for misunderstandings and conflict. Marjorie, with her clipboard and control obsession, stands for those who try imposing personal rules on others, a common issue in American neighborhoods where HOA regulations sometimes cross into absurdity. From measuring mailboxes to fining folks for wrong-colored flowers. Elliot, on the flip side, embodies people chasing privacy and peace, like many Americans moving to suburbs to dodge city stress. Details like Trespassed or the Seaside Park security demos show how communities can rally when truth comes out, reflecting America's value of transparency and fairness. Marjorie's lawsuit over emotional distress taps into the U.S. litigation trend, where small disputes can balloon into court cases, but it also shows the justice system often leans on clear evidence, like Elliot's security videos. The takeaway is that in modern American life, communication and transparency are key to defusing conflict, especially in tight-knit communities. Instead of letting misunderstandings spiral like Marjorie did, try direct dialogue or proving good intentions, like Elliot did with his demo. Elliot's patience facing her schemes, from toy drones to fake guns, reminds us staying calm and sticking to facts trumps any accusation. Finally, Elliot opening his garage to teach kids and bond with Coral Ridge shows that blending into a community, even through small acts like sharing know-how, can turn a stranger into a neighbor. In a diverse but sometimes divided American society, this lesson pushes us to build bridges, not walls. Don't miss out on more hilarious stories like Elliot and Marjorie's Coral Ridge drama. Hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and catch you in the next video for even more garage secrets.